Want to know if something's true, you got to do a fact check, right? Research, right? So that's what we've done. You got over 100 years of research that's not being taught, and it won't be addressed. No one would challenge it because they know it to be fact. It's a fact, and it lines up with all the history books, unless they just blatantly lie. You know what I mean? But it lines up with all the history books, all the scholars that write books that probably taught here before. It lines up perfectly with it. So read Deuteronomy 7-6 real quick. I seen you moving, but I gotta share this with you so you can see what the Bible says about his people. Because this book, there's 18 nations in it, but it speaks mostly about one nation. It's the Israelites, if you ever read the Bible. Because if I say something about the Bible, you've heard that name before, Israelites, right? Because that's the one that's spoke about the most in the Bible. Read what you got.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 6. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thou God.
So God said y'all are a holy people. Holy meaning separate. I made everybody, but I want y'all to be separate. Y'all holy. Read.
The Lord thy God hath chosen thee.
Stop right there. What's your name?
Mo.
Mo? Yeah. He said the Lord thy God have chosen Mo. Come on.
To be a special people unto himself. Above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
That sound like equality to you? See what I'm saying? God said he chose us to be a special people to himself. Above all people on earth. We're supposed to be running the planet. Because guess what? We do things, we operate in different ways than other people. We really do. From the way we live and stuff. You can't tell it now because of the other nations who've inflicted what they wanted our people to do. That's why our communities are the way they are. Because we've taken on their customs, their ways, their ideas of life. And we've accepted it and look at how we live. Look at how things are for us. So God said he chose us to be a special people, but right now, why are we on the bottom then? Deuteronomy 28. We on the bottom because we won't keep the commandments. If we, and Christianity tells you don't have to keep any commandments. That's saying there's no rules. So that means I can just, the 10 commandments, it says thou shalt not kill, right? So I can kill somebody now and it's okay? No, there's laws out here that protect you from that. Why? Because it ends people's lives, right? In the Bible, God said don't kill nobody. That's a commandment. So why are we picking and choosing which commandments? Because God said, read 15. God said we got to do all his commandments.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass.
So this is future tense, shall come to pass. Come on.
If thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
So if we won't listen to the voice of the Most High God.
To observe, to do all his commandments.
All or just a few?
All his commandments.
Nah, just the kill part and don't steal, and then the rest of them don't matter.
To do all his commandments.
Come on.
And his statutes, which I command thee.
You know, a statute is just a sub law. Commandments is a law, statute is like a sub law. Come on.
His statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So is a curse a good thing or a bad thing? Verse 47.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah. It's a bad thing, right? A curse is not a good thing because anytime you watch a movie or hear people talk, they say, I'm breaking the curse. If it was good, why do they want to break it? So God said if we don't keep his commandments, all these curses will gonna come against us. Read this real quick, read.
Verse 47. Because thou servest.
No, verse 48.
Therefore shall thou serve thy enemies.
No, our friends.
Therefore shall thou serve thy enemies.
So it's not hard to see why in Africa, so-called Africa, they've taken over. Because who's running Africa right now? Is it the Africans? The so-called Africans? How y'all doing? Who's running Africa, the continent of Africa right now?
I'm out of England.
Right. So now, and you from over there too. So who's running the continent of Africa right now?
The white people.
There we go.
Europeans.
See how easy that is? And guess what? Even China's getting in on it now. Are they not? China's trying to move in too, right? So now read it from the top.
Therefore shall thou serve.
So what we're doing is God said he chose a group of people to be his chosen people and represent him on the earth. And he said he will always fight for them as long as they kept his commandments. But if they didn't, a curse will come upon them. So these are some of the curses that God listed for you to be able to identify who his people are. Read that from the top.
Therefore shall thou serve thy enemies.
No, your friends.
Thy enemies.
Come on.
Which the Lord shall send against thee.
Which who shall send against you?
The Lord shall send thee against thee. In hunger.
So stop. Transatlantic slave trade happened. We were kidnapped and taken by our, was it friends or did he say enemies? He said enemies, right?
Enemies.
Okay, so now, when we got over here, he said we would serve them in what?
In hunger.
So now, when you go get something to eat, where do you have to go?
To the
Restaurant, grocery store. Who owns that?
the white man.
Thank you. That's who owns it. So some of us might own a few little stores here and there, but as a whole, who controls that? The white man. Read on.
And in thirst.
So if you're thirsty, do you know there's a law against you catching rainwater?
Really?
Yeah, in certain counties and especially in the city. That's why they have the water company, and you have to pay your what? Water bill. So now he said we would serve them in what? and in
thirst.
Hold on. So now when you're thirsty, where you gotta go? The store. You gotta pay your water bill to have water at home, right? Who owns that?
The white man.
There we go. Come on, read on.
And in nakedness.
Hold on. And in nakedness. So now, our people, Puff Daddy got a clothing line, right? They got it, you know what I'm saying? But guess what? He got the name on the line, but he don't own none of the textiles that make any of the fabrics to make those clothes. Who owns that?
The white man.
It's easy to say, right? These are things that are fact. I'm not making none of this up. But God said that curse will come upon his people. Because we don't have any of that stuff. Read on.
And in one of all things.
So he said in one of all things. If you want to die today, where do you got to go to get your death certificate?
From the white man.
There we go. He said in one of all things, you can't even die without going to see them first. See what I'm saying? They give the death certificates. That's what God said. Read on. Is there more?
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
So stop right there. God is describing the person that's going to do bad against us. He said, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon your neck. So if you Google yoke of iron right now on your phone, the first thing that's going to pop up is us. We're the only people that say, oh, slavery happened to everybody. The so-called Jewish people went into slavery, all this stuff. Nobody had a yoke of iron on their neck but us. That's the first picture that's going to come up. Read it again. And he
shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
Until when?
Until he have destroyed thee.
So destroyed thee. The understanding is we're standing here. So he didn't mean physically. He meant mentally, spiritually destroyed you. That's why our black men can look at each other and don't see God. And we kill each other in the streets all the time. That's how our sisters ain't together like they used to be and argue with you over your shirt, over the way you wear your hair, because we've been mentally destroyed. Only in the so-called blacks, Hispanic and Native Americans, I know there's other races that do it, but only in our communities do they push homosexuality, violence, drug use. In every city in America where our people live at, there's a liquor store and a church. And several of them all through. And what do black people always say? They want to get out of the way. Hood, right? Why? Because that's what's pushed in our neighborhoods. So guess what? That means that it matters what your nationality is. That's why they ask the question. To even come to this school, they ask you what's your ethnicity, what's your nationality. Prime example, when the League of Nations or all the nations around the world come together at that big table and they talk, who's representing us? Now I know in your case, we have some people that look like us from the continent of Africa, from some of the countries there, but guess what? They've been bought. And like, you know that, right?
No African leader was represented at the Berlin Conference.
See what I mean? None of them was represented at the Berlin Conference. That's fact. I'm gonna ask you a question, bro, but he just said something heavy. At the Berlin Conference, there was nobody that looked like us representing us. So now who created those rules? You have to ask yourself these things. Y'all had an institution of higher learning.
What is a nation? Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is men leading by example. Nation is women's support. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation is